Welcome to SikhCast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
This episode of the SikhCast is from a live webinar recorded on Mother's Day, May 10th. Featuring a talent of engaging women, they discuss how Sikhi has informed their ideas of motherhood, their challenges, and their triumphs. Hosting the webinar is the Sikh Research Institute's creative director, Inni Kaur. As an esteemed writer, poet, and painter, she is celebrating the release of her newest children's book series, Journey with the Gurus. Her journey has taken her across the globe, and she now resides in Connecticut in the United States. Joining her is Mandeep Kaur from the United Kingdom. Born in Punjab, she became a postgraduate in engineering in the UK, where she also received her PhD. Later joining the British Armed Forces, she's the first World Faith Chaplain to join the Auxiliary Royal Air Force. She has been awarded as a member of the British Empire by Her Majesty the Queen for her service. She's married and has 3 kids. Accompanying them from Ontario, Canada, is Sharanjeet Kaur. She has spent the last 15 years serving in the public sector, influencing public health, education, urban planning, and social services. Sharanjeet is the VP in Ontario of the World Sikh Organization. She has 2 children at home, one 11-year-old and one 8-year-old. Lastly is Neelu Singh from New Delhi, India. Seeking to help others, she is a counselor of 15 years working with groups and individuals to reach their goals, from relationships, careers, and their life purpose. She is also the General Secretary of the Chief Khalsa Dhan, one of the oldest and respectable socio-religious organizations. She lives with 4 generations of her family together under one roof. And facilitating the session is Mandeep Kaur from Ontario, Canada. Inni Kaur will start the session.
Thank you all for joining in, and thank you to my esteemed panelists. I'm looking forward to having a discussion with all of you. And, you are women of substance. And being women of substance, I wanted, and in all honesty, I shared a tuk of Gurbani with all of you, because this tuk was made an impact on me. It was very profound when I was in the process of translating this, that I had a moment of reflection, doubt, and multiple emotions arose from this talk. So this one is by Baba Farid Ji, and it is on Ang 488 of the Guru Granth Sahib. And he reveals that those whom you attach to your hem are the dervishes at your door. Now, the dervishes, they are the ones who are seeking, the ones who are immersed in the longing for the one. Their birth mothers are blessed. Their advent is congratulatory. And when I read that their birth mothers are blessed, I thought about it. They are blessed because they have attached their offsprings to the one, to the door of the one, to the ultimate. And it made me pause. Have I done that in my journey? Have I attached my children to the one? Whoever they consider the one to be, the source, the ultimate, and we can give multiple names to it. But did I do that? Was that a priority for me? So I wanted, I share this with you because it's a very open, candid conversation, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So Mandeep Ji, if I could begin with you, it would be great.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh to one and all who have joined us today. Happy Mother's Day. So it's not actually in the UK today, Happy Mother's Day. Yeah, but nevertheless, I said to my kids, Happy Mother's Day, so let's make pancakes. Yeah, it doesn't matter which part of the country it is today. So we made chocolate lava pancakes. Wow, too many sugars this morning. So I'm hyper. So let me go into the Pankti and share the thoughts. And thank you for sharing your thoughts, Inni. So आप लिए लड़ लाए dar darves se tin tan janedi mao aaye safal se. So a beautiful pankti when we reflect on it. And when I was thinking about it, the thought that came to my mind was that it takes a great mother to bring a great person. So, and this pankti gives me this polite, gentle reminder of what I can do because I have a privilege to be a mother. And also the responsibilities that are attached with that privilege as well. That yes, I can bear kids, but what responsibilities come automatically with it? And this pankti is reminding me of that. And as you said, have I done that? We ponder on ourselves every day. And sometimes that brings a little pressure as well on us as mothers. Have I not? What can I do? And I've spoken to many mothers in my life and they say, oh, I'm not a good mom. I can't do this. And I think let's just get rid of this idea today. Okay. And yes, tin tan janedi mao aaye safal se. So my thoughts were that yes, I have a privilege. What privilege I have? Is it those mothers who have worked on their own self-jivan, self-conscious being? Then they prepare themselves before they welcome that soul of who we call tan, the one that you just described, the one who Vaheguru has embraced. So once we have worked on our own self and jivan, then we attract like conscious soul, and we embrace that soul, and we feel the honor to offer home, which is our womb, to basically for that soul to flourish in that panchatat, as we say, human body, for giving that opportunity for come into the human body, because this is the way to have union with divine, one force, that human body. I think so. That's what the reflection came to my mind, that have I empowered myself to welcome that soul who we can call tan, and basically give that platform. So this part of Shabad, because we were talking about I suffer, so who is that I? Who is that? Who are they? And I think you've already explained that those who have felt love for divine, love for one, and they are imbued with Lord's love. And so blessed are those mothers who bore them, those as without mothers, they won't be able to come. So that's what my initial thoughts were on this pankti.
Yeah, wonderful. I love the way you recited it. It just transported all of us. And I was so hoping that you would do it, and you did it. So thank you. So Neeluji, if we can get your thoughts on the Shabad, it would be great.
Yeah, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I am grateful, Inni to SikhRI for making this webinar and talking about motherhood on such a day. We are going to talk all about motherhood, and first of all, I would like to use one pankti, Suche tere dudh varga, sucha tera naam, O hai maa. I dedicate this webinar today to my mother, who passed 7 years back, and the heart where she stayed is still empty, but her presence is there always. And well, talking about the Shabad, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, I would go a line further now, ਉਸੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੇ ਅਗਲੀ ਲਾਈਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆ ਜਾਣੀ ਆ, which says, ਰਤੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਖੁਦਾਏ ਰੰਗ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਦੇ। ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਾਂ, ਉਸ ਰੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੰਗੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਾਂ, ਔਰ ਉਹਦਾ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. So how is that as an experience? I mean, it's such an experiential thing, and of course a poetess would know much more. When I was reading the Shabad, the tears were flowing. That, oh yeah, this thing, if this happens, and if, Janani kinni tan hoegi when she sees the child being following that path. And just ugly, usto ugly line aandi hai, Jina pachhata sach, Fariji says, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੁੰਮਾ ਪੈਰ ਮੂੰਹ. Now this did the whole thing, कि Farid ji ਇੰਨੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ that I would love to kiss the feet of that person who is just gone through this stage, imbued with love. He's talking about that love, that affair with the divine. It's so beautiful. So, I was just visualizing कि माता तृप्ता जी जिस वेले गुरु नानक साहब ए वाली जर्नी ते होणगे, ग्रो कर रहे होणगे, इवॉल्व कीते होएगा, how proud that woman must be feeling. I mean, it's amazing experience, right? Now, coming back to our thing, Tripta ji ne te, of course, and all the matas, the Sikh mothers, they must be feeling proud of the fact. But what are we doing? Are we connected ourselves first to that level first? And then we can talk that, have we given that kind of a thing to our kids, that they are one with the divine? Of course, I believe that, I'm not talking about doing Nitnem and Swere Prakash Kita ki nahi, Santokh hai ki nahi. I'm not talking all that. I'm talking about just being connected with the divine. So I feel, somewhere yes also. It's not a total failure. I mean, I won't degrade myself by saying, nahi, kuch bhi nahi hoya. कुछ नहीं होया, I am a total failure, मैं उस पासे नहीं ले जा सकी. नहीं, मैं खुद भी चलने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ, और बच्चे भी उस पासे ही ने. They may not be doing all these rituals, they may not be into beliefs of what Sikhi demands, but they are connected, yes, and it's where I feel the bliss. So that's why the tears came running, and my eyes were moist, because I felt that whenever I felt that they are connected, especially recently we did an exhibition that was on oneness. And there I could see my daughter doing all that thing about oneness, and talking more about it than what I could express also. And my son totally participating with his wife, with my grandson, totally the whole family was for Guru's teachings. That gave me a sense of pride, So I agree that we may not be, we can't compare ourselves with Sikh mothers, the Guru or Guru's mothers, but somewhere we are trying to tread on that path. And it's beautiful. And to take inspiration from this kind of a Shabad, I'm sure we'll do wonders with God's grace, with the Pasha's grace. Things are moving good.
So, I know you used the word proud a couple of times, and just like a heart to heart. It's pride and proud is something I know we use very casually, but it's something which we need to be cognizant about. We're not proud. We are actually in shukr that when our children, or when something, or if someone is doing something so great, that we are in shukr that that is happening. So the sense of pride is kind of doesn't sit well in the Sikhi paradigm, because ego and pride is something which we work towards rising above. And when we say, we are actually really in gratitude for the people who are serving, who have connected within themselves and bringing this oneness to everyone, is that sense of gratitude. But I don't want to go too much more there. And Sharanjeet, I would love to hear, you are the youngest mom on the panel. Share with us your thoughts when you got the chance.
So ਪਹਿਲੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. I thank SikhRI for inviting me to this panel and the opportunity to share this time with both the attendees and these amazing panelists. So I would echo the sentiment that Mandeep Kaur and Neelu Singh have both shared, and Inni Kaur around the Shabad it definitely brings forward this sense of immense responsibility for yourself as a mother, but also as a Sikh yourself. So the leading by example. So I echo that. The piece that's actually I'll touch on that it just happened right now. So I had shared with Inni Kaur that the first time I actually heard this book was over 20 years ago, and I wasn't a mother at that time. And the book was not sung. So I'm going to come back to that point for a second. It was spoken, and then the Kathavachik in the Vyakhya took it one step further and said any mother who does not produce offspring that is in connection with Sikhi, that is not a Sikh, that mother's book should have been barren. And I remember sitting there, not as a mother yet, but it was literally like feeling a gut punch. And I can't even imagine the Parana, the Matama that were sitting in the Sangat with me, how they would have felt. And it was, and again, not having the opportunity to explore, interpret, it didn't sit right. So when Benji shared this book 20 years later, and now being a mother, my initial reaction was so different, but my gratitude is actually to Mandeep Kaur Benji, because I would have to say 20 years later, you completely changed it for me. Because the minute you sung it, it went from that reaction that I had, and I've carried for 2 decades in my stomach that felt wrong, to being pierced in the heart. That the same book, it was sung in a feminine voice, and at the same time with a pyar that really, I think, what the Gurbani was intended for, so that the book became, it's a goal orientation, something that we're all working towards, versus the way that it was presented before, which was very punitive, which was so judgmental. So I thank you, Benji, for singing it and for changing it. It really is the Mother's Day gift for me this year.
There is something to be said when you hear the Tuk recited. It touches a part of you which goes. So that's why Rag is so important, and to be sung at spacing, because that's actually what moves you. The sound, and Mandeep ji, you really did a wonderful, rendition of it. Thank you. I cannot even begin to tell you that. Sharanjeet, you mentioned, feeling at the pit of your stomach, and Mandeep ji, you also mentioned, in the beginning, for the mothers, that, all of us at some point in our journey have felt, did we do the right thing? Have we done enough? And how do we overcome that? I mean, it's natural to feel that when everything is going well, or what you consider well in your own paradigm, in own shift perspective, that's okay. But when things turn to rock a little bit, then you're hardest on yourself. And, there's a poem of Professor Mohan Singh, which a friend of mine just translated. And the gist of that poem was that mother is like the divine plant, and the shade of the ones who sit under her, she shades all of them. And it is like the heavens have borrowed that shade to shade the entire universe. to initiate entire creation. And all the plants of this world wither away when their roots dry. But this plant of the mother, dries up only when the flowers wither away. So that connection between, the creation, which a mother is, because it's the womb that brings the child forth. And creation is, we are constantly creating. If we are anything as close to the creator, it's a woman through her womb. But we wither when our flowers, we dry up when our flowers wither. So how do we not dry up? Where do we find that strength from, that equilibrium, that's a hedge when our flowers maybe don't bloom, when things are drying up? Because if we dry up, there's nothing left to give. So I want to talk about what is it that you derive your strength from, and to keep you going so that you don't dry up. So Sharanjeet, you're the closest to my screen. If you want to take that on.
That's a great question. And I think it changes it's changed for me as I've gotten older, and as my experiences have changed. So I think the strength for me personally comes from a few different sources. First and foremost, I think it is purosa, and having complete and utter purosa, that the sense that sade hath vicha sara kuch, right? Like you have to let that go, because Janedi, you have that sense of, you think you have control. And this is coming from somebody who, I'll be honest, I am completely OCD, and so there's definitely a layer there. But I think becoming a mother is when I realized that at one hand you have so much responsibility, but on the other hand, you have so little in your control, and the purosa then goes right back to Vaheguru, and knowing that you have to have that. Guruji's given us what would be a safety net, and we have to be okay to fall in that safety net. The second one I would say is sangat, because to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and especially other mothers, has completely changed that trajectory, because there's the shared sense of experiences that you can bring and teach and hold with each other in a safe space. So I would say that for me, it's the two. It's the Simran and it's the purosa that you have in your Sikhi, and it's also at the same time creating a sangat that's good for you. So similar, and I'm kind of jumping ahead to something else that I was thinking about actually late last night, but there was an active decision that I made a few years ago to actually bring myself off of all social media. And there was a reason for that, and that was, again, the sangat that you create intentionally and unintentionally. So it's so important for me now to ensure that, because the ramifications are so much bigger, that the intentional sangat that I create will give me strength and will give me safety, so that in turn I can support my children in a mothering capacity. If my intentional or unintentional sangat that I've created is one that feeds things that are not healthy for me, that doesn't understand, so in the sense of like the withering of the flowers, that it doesn't help me how to grasp, or it gives me an artificial sense that everybody else's flowers are blooming and my flowers are the only flowers that are withering, which I'll be honest, which is what social media was doing for me. It felt like everybody else had it right, and so it recenters you in that way. So that's my take on it.
Wow, thank you. Neelu ji, would you like to share something with us on that?
I go with Sharanjeet saying about faith, because faith is the most important thing which I always go by. And I feel if that faith is there and that trust, o yaqeen, Mada Duja Nami Yaqeen, which says that जो कुछ भी होएगा ਉਹਦੇ अच्छे वास्ते ही होएगा उसकी रजा विच रहना is another thing and मात गर्भ तुम ही प्रतिपालक माता दे गर्भ विच रह के भी जेकर वो प्रतिपालना कर रहे हैं तो 100% you know वो हमेशा ਉਹਦੇ विच रहेगा ही साडी हेल्प करेगा ही so that kind of a faith that total yaqeen ki yes everything is going to turn out to be fine gives me a lot of solace and the tool which I use for that is ardas ki you know every time I'm into any of my problems I want to go for ardas ki main पातशाह ਨੂੰ मैं अरदास करके ही इस चीज ਨੂੰ solve कर सकती हूँ so these two things go hand in hand faith and ardas so that helps me a lot
Mandeep ji.
So a few things have been stolen from me already by Sharan Panji and Neelu Panji. Yeah. So I was thinking, we all go through this from time to time. And I think it's very natural because as human beings, we judge ourselves, we self-criticize. The last thing we are to ourselves is compassionate. Definitely as mothers, we are very, very critical about ourselves. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, by the way, but that's who we are and that's what we do. And maybe it's about time we start thinking otherwise, maybe, because if, as you said, if we wither away, then really mother doesn't only look after kids, but I think it's the backbone of the whole family, as my understanding is, or whatever I've experienced in my life. Sometimes when I feel things are not right, I try to be kid myself. So main bacha aap ban jandi hai. So I try. It's very tough because my ego comes in the way, because I am the mummy and what I say is right and the way it should be my way. Then why should I actually basically bend or lower down myself in front of kids or anybody else? So, but whenever I manage to become aware of my ego, creating that issue between my kids and my family, and be able to basically, okay, ego, you sit here and I'm just going to deal with this now. I become the kid myself and try to just understand for 1 minute, being in their shoes. What are they thinking or what might they be thinking? And have that one-to-one conversation. Look, mommy's sorry too because of this. Yeah, I get, or maybe I don't get it. Let's talk about it. That helps me, gives me the strength then once I have this without agenda talk, just soul to soul talk. And, you know, I was amazed when my kids talked to me and they said, Mummy, it wasn't you or it wasn't this. My ego came in the way and that's why I behaved in such and such way. And I thought, oh, okay, wow. If you're becoming aware of your ego at this age, then yes, who knows what is their path, what is their journey. So what I was thinking was that other thing is, you know, they are, okay, let's put it this way. They are seeds planted in, say, through my womb, my kids, and your kids through your womb, but they don't belong to me. Yeah, they are given to us to water them and to give them this nurturing environment, and particularly when we talk from Gurmat perspective, to give them that divine nurturing environment which has got discipline but also care. So the discipline which will look after them wherever they go, because we are not going to be together. You know, yes, now they can do part because mommy's looking, or mommy will say, well, you haven't done part, you know, you're not going to get breakfast. But for how long, right? At some point, they are going to be independent. So how can we put that discipline in a nurturing way, in the most loving way, that they ratte ishq khudaye rang didar ke, that they rise in love. They have this ishq with Khuda rather than the danda of mummy that, okay, I have to do it because mummy says this. So they have this love for their, you know, their Khuda, their divine, and they feel that connection. And this, I think this can happen. I don't see that as an impossible thing. If mothers try to live beyond, again, that kind of forgive me for saying this, beyond the rituals only, and beyond just, okay, what tick box is, they can see that thing in their mom's eyes, in their mom's living, in their talking, walking, cooking, whatever. It will just instill in them. And after that, whatever happens, right? Because it's not my plan which is going to work. And as Sharon Panji said, Neelu Panji said, there's one thing called my plan, but there is a bigger plan which is created for all of us. And we have to have the prosa, faith, trust in that plan is actually, you know what, much better than my plan. And that doesn't stop us from putting the discipline and the care and the routine in, because we have been given the responsibility to nurture them, water them every day. If we don't, if you just put the seed in and leave it alone, we have to have a responsibility to do that. And for us, we need to be disciplined ourselves that, look, we have the right time to water the plants, look after them when they need more soil and all that stuff. Just analogy came to my mind for some reason. Yeah. So if you put that, and the biggest thing is ardas. Yeah, but not ardas only for my kid, to be honest. It's kids, all kids. If we talk about Sarabadda Pala, then we are watering the plants, and then let all kids nurture under this divine connection. I think that's what I was thinking when you were talking about it.
Yep. While you were speaking, Mandeep ji, the vision of my mother, yes, I was her child, and I will always remain her child. It's been 8 years since she has passed to the earthly realm, from the earthly realm. And the last 5 or 6 years of her life, we were satsangis. The relationship had evolved. We did I was in the US and she was in Delhi, and I would call her every morning, my time, 9 a.m. And the first thing we did would be to discuss the hukam. And there were many days I remember clearly, I would say, Ma, I feel like Guru has pulled my ear today. And she would say, well, would you let anyone else pull your ear? I said, absolutely not. And so she said, there you go. And during those moments, those every day, she would share with me when it was a particular hukam, her connection with that hukam, that when she was in pain and she went to Bangla Sahib Gurdwara, Matha Tekya, and this was the Shabad that was playing, it gave her solace. And to be able to share in my mother's spiritual journey, this is not something you talk about, but that transition, when that happens, it's absolutely, I feel very blessed to experience, the mother. She will always be my mother, but I miss her as a satsangi. And when she left, the best time of my day became the hardest time of my day, because I would listen to the hukam and I would go to the phone to call my mother, and she wasn't there. And that's when I began, I think it was after about 3 months, the voice said, whatever you were going to say to your mother, write it and share it. So I began doing that, and I began sharing my thoughts on the hukam, and that's her legacy. So even when she's no longer physically present, she's continuously giving. So I wanted to ask you, for the women in your life, your mothers, your grandmothers, anyone where, you have felt that their blessings continue, because love never dies. It's just manifests in different ways. And are we open? Do we see it? So Neeluji, if you could share something, I mean, if you'd like.
My mother also passed 7 years back, And I started with that, and the story what you shared resonates with me so much that I feel very close to it, because my mother's life was dependent on hukam. And since last 25 years, every month she used to get satsang done in our house. And my father was a heart patient. He's also no more. And whenever he was sick, you know, एक कदी बारी में उन्होंने मुंह तो सुनिया कि बड़ा डाडा हुक्मनामा आया. I said, what's that? She said, I don't know. I felt that something is not right. And then that time my father was not feeling too well. And when things would improve, and not that things would improve, if she would get a good hukamnama, she would feel that father would improve. And, you know, in my growing years, I always felt that. And my dadi, my chaiji, we used to call her chaiji, and she was also totally into these kind of things. And she would also talk about, koi gal nahi, kuch nahi hoya, ardas karo, apni is cheez nu pakka rakho, bharosa na chhado, sab theek hoega. So, you know, that kind of upbringing gives you a certain atmik adolta, you know, thus your spirit becomes strengthened somehow. You feel that, yeah, there is food for soul. And that comes from Shabad, that comes from the knowledge that, yeah, Guru Sahib sade ang sang na lege ne, oh har jagah oh na lege ne. So today when Mama is not there, her presence is felt everywhere. Especially when I'm doing part, like in the morning, I was thinking if she was alive and she would see me talking all this on motherhood, she would feel so happy, you know, to the T. Like even I thought about this webinar also with her, that she would have been the most, she would have felt so nice about the whole thing. So her presence is there guiding me always. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Right. So Sharanjeet, let's hear your thoughts.
So I immediately thought of my mother as well. So I am blessed. My mother is the kind of person that she's quiet. Between my father and my mother, and I love them both because they're complete opposites but completely complementary. So if in the community everybody knows my dad, he's the one who was louder and loving and kind of full of energy, and my mother was always the quiet one. And by that there's often this interpretation that she takes second. Do you know what I mean? That there's something there that like she's not as strong or something to that point. But I would say from a Sikhi perspective, where my father definitely taught us about seva, and you know was the one that was like, you know, learn your bani, be involved in Sarbat Tapala. My mother, I think I really realized her value much later in life in the sense of what she did in her quiet ways. So she was the one who made the decision that she wanted to have Guru Mahadra Prakash in the home, and she made the decision, and it happened. It was nothing that it was to be discussed. It was something that she did, and she fundamentally shifted the environment in our home because all of a sudden we had to be Guru oriented because something was central in our home that we had that responsibility for. My mother's never told us to, you know, learn our bot, but she was the one who did it. It was a memory that I always have, is that I would wake up and she would be doing her nitne, and it was what has it was foundational in terms from a childhood perspective. It was a way that she's cared for not just our family, but for everybody else in her quiet way. So it's so interesting because when I reflect back, I think when I was growing up, I probably didn't appreciate it as much. I didn't see the Sikhi from in that. I saw the Sikhi, but not the impact that it would have on my life later on. And what I would say is that Amma is Amma, ke, you know, aap hi maan ban gayi hain, but you know, her role hasn't changed in terms of how she mothers me and how she mothers also my children. So from a grandmother orientation as well. So she'll come into our home, and it's, you know, if we're at work or our kids go to school, she'll make sure that she'll do as many Sukhmani Sahib Path as possible while she's here, because it's just entrenched. The bonding is there that, what she gave as a blessing for our childhood home, she then brings it forward into my home now. So, and it's one of those things that, again, when something happens in the world, it goes right back to Bani and Pana and Parosa. Like, these are the things that are foundational from a mothering perspective. And again, I'll say this again, it's one of those pieces that I don't think you really realize the quiet strength that's there and really fundamentally shifts who we are as individuals until you kind of get into this new space in your life where you also see others who have not had it. You see those who are struggling now because they haven't had the privilege and the gift of having a ma who's actually brought that to them.
That's right. The shift happens actually when you're older, right? When you see your mother, when you become a mom, you appreciate your mother, your grandmother a lot more. Mandeep ji, if you could share with us your thoughts, and I'd request the listeners, if there are questions you have for us, please put them in the chat and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
So I had a privilege to have Sangat of my Nani ji as well. She used to live with us when I was young, and I remember sitting with her quite a few evenings and asking her if she would listen to the Japji Sahib that I've tried to kant, as in memorize. And then she will very patiently listen to my mistakes, and every other day she wouldn't give up. Yeah, so I when you were asking this question, I was trying to go back into my childhood and ask what sangat I had of my, grandparents as such. And then obviously my mother and my mother-in-law are in my life, and I'm very blessed to have both of them currently in my life. And I lost my dad when I was quite young. So what I've seen in my mother is, it's something I cannot put into words, because having two young kids, as a young mother, how she raised us is nothing more than a miracle for me. No financial support. And on top of that, the best education that we could get. And she tells me stories today that people used to say to her, "Kudi nu padha ke ki karna hai, innu kite mada mota viah do, te kam khatam ho jayega. At least you don't have to have these financial implications and all that." And my mom says to me that you actually went to a better school than your brother because you were just a little more intelligent than him. Yeah, so this is how she saw it, rather than abiding by the societal rules. And imagine that I'm talking now, I don't know how, maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, for a single woman, and we were not in Chandigarh, right? We were in a small village where you have to go by societal rules and what people say, and your jethani and everybody put pressure and whatever. But she took that stand, and I think if she wouldn't have, then I don't know where I would be today. With that blessing, and every time we went through something, a challenge, we all have challenges in life, and whatever we had as a family, she will say, "Mainu kadi fikar hai, Guru Nanak hai na." I still remember that. So she still says even today, "Mainu kadi fikar hai, Guru Nanak hai na." When I was going through bearing children and the labor pain was about to come and all that, and I was thinking, "Hi, kidda hona?" And she was the one who will say, "Tu bas utthe Guru Nanak nu yaad kar li, sara kuch theek ho jana." And those words, it's like koi kisi ne kya nahi hega. They have brought Guru Nanak in your life by giving that blessing from heart to heart. The blessings of mothers are so pure, so divine. Yeah, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਸ ਮਿਲ ਗਈ ਨਾ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਰੱਬ ਦੀ ਅਸੀਸ ਹੀ ਹੈ, because so pure in it. There is ਇੱਕ ਮਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸੈਕਰੀਫਾਈਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਣਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕੁਛ, ਮੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਵੇ. I mean, like, what could be bigger sacrifice than this on this earth? What bigger miracle we are looking for other than motherhood? So my mother has taught me how to self-sacrifice, how to keep sharing and giving, even when you're not in a situation to give, whether it's like you're cooking for somebody, even when you're tired yourself, because you kind of care for somebody, you want to give, and the resilience to keep going. Yes, there are challenges. the resilience I've seen not only in my mother, but in my mother-in-law as well. And I feel really privileged that my mother-in-law is like my friend and who can talk to me as a friend. I sometimes we do a chugli of my husband, my mother-in-law and me, and which is so nice because she tells me all the things that he did when he was little and young, and how he took pange and whatever. And it's so nice to sit with her and listen to all those things. So, but and you're so right. I didn't realize that until I became mother as well, that what it takes to become a mother, and what it is, why my mother was always worrying about me. And I used to say, oh, it's okay. Tusi kyon pareshan bande? Now I know. Because, and this is one of those things, until you have tasted it, you don't know the taste. But a huge blessing. And one thing, if I just say here, is that every mother is trying their best. They tried their best. Our grandmothers tried their best. And we are trying our best as well, because that's the name of a mother, right? Ma. So, yeah, whatever. But I think we don't realize that until we reflect. And I think it's the first time that somebody has asked me this question in my life. And I think I should say this to my mother as well. This might, because I feel shy, and I think I'm confessing here that if I say something very positive to my mother, she starts crying. She becomes really, how can I put, emotional. And that is really, and that's why it has been really difficult for me to share my emotions with her. But I'm doing it publicly now. She's not going to understand English anyway, so I can say whatever I like. But I wish that I can, and I've started that slowly, maybe through text. Sometimes I do it on the phone as well. Look, thank you, and I miss the pronte that you make for me. And it's very gently and softly, because I don't want to miss this opportunity before I show my gratitude to her. And I hope we can all try to do that in our lives as well somehow.
Yeah. So, Mandeep ji, what you just shared, the last thing which, the last conversation which I had with my mother was, I called her in the morning and she wasn't well. And we did, the hukam and everything. And then I called her an hour and a half later. I said, Ma, I just felt like talking to you again. And she says, why have you called? You called this morning. Don't waste your money. I said, it's okay. I just wanted to hear your voice. And she said to me, she says, Ma de naal inna pyar nahi karida. Don't love your mother so much. And I said, she's my mother. Meri maa hegi hai. I will love her the way I want to. And I told her at that time, I said, I want you to know one thing, that I love you completely. मैं तुहानू बहुत प्यार करनी है. And she said to me, मां नू भी पता है कि उसदी धी उसनू कितना प्यार करती है. There was nothing, and she passed away within 9 to 10 hours. That was the last conversation. So for me, that circle was complete. The appreciation, and that she knew that I loved her completely, and that I knew my mother loved me completely. I was, so when you're talking about to share with your mother, even a bit at a time, because I know the solace it provided me, I didn't cry at my mother's passing, because it was such an incredible blessing. The way she passed, even her passing, I felt that she was teaching me that the Guru fulfilled her ardas. The way she wanted to leave the earth was the way the Guru fulfilled her ardas. And the Guru was going to do that for me. If I was in that frame of mind, if my connection with Guru was that strong, like hers was. So thank you, Mandeep ji, for sharing. We have a couple of questions, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to read them out to you, and then we'll see who wants to, if any one of you want to take it on. Wonderful reflection, says Jajar Singh from Washington, D.C. What is an example of a time you struggled as a mother and what ultimately helped you work through it? If there is someone who would like to share that, they can unmute their mic and take it on.
I can go first. It's interesting because I think my challenge for a mother actually came really, really early. So I was still expecting my firstborn, Jodh Singh, and we had some serious complications during the pregnancy. And so I actually ended up in the emergency room a couple of times. But the first time it happened, it's a terrifying experience, especially when you're young, it's your first child, you don't know what's happening, but it's also, from an emotional perspective, you're a mom, but you're not a ma yet because the baby's not there, but there's a kitch there that you can't explain. So medical stuff aside, it was, we're in the hospital, and the challenge was the challenge of fear that, like, there's this responsibility. I need to look after the gift that's been given to me, and how do I do it? And that, again, I think it's the theme that kind of we've spoken to, but that sense of responsibility that carries with you, which you don't realize it overcomes you from the day that you find out that you are going to be a mom, and then you carry it for the rest of your life. And I said this before, like, my mother is still mothering me, so like it doesn't go away when even your children become mothers. But what I realized in that moment was when everything felt like it was at a loss and I had no idea what was going to happen, and both my husband and I were terrified, everything went back to Bani. It just started coming out, up, right? So, and that was the only thing. Like, the tears are flowing, there's complete fear, you have no idea what's happening, and then all of a sudden the only thing that's going to give you strength is your guru again. And you can, whether it's Simran or there's a Shabad that brings you strength. For me, it was Jabeida Bart, but it's that grounding again that it reinforced in that moment before I even gave birth to my first child. And I'd say that it's what I've actually been most reflective of, that every challenge that's come since, I realized that Baki sara kuch bhul janda hai, right? At the end of the day, that when that happens, it really does come right back to you and your relationship with your guru, and really bringing that forward to kind of help you overcome what those challenges are.
Does anybody else wants to share on that?
Yeah, if I would just like to say, listening to Penji, I think you forget about challenges and nothing was coming in front of me. But as soon as Sharanjeet Penji started talking, there's been a lot. There's been a lot, actually, but I don't think we have time to go into it. I just quickly share, when I had my second daughter, there was a challenge because second daughter, and that was not necessarily a challenge from me within, but again, the pressure that was around. But thankfully, the way I had support from my mother-in-law, because I thought it will come from that side, and my mother as well. We talked very openly about it. It gave me so much strength. And also, when I was able to see my daughter not as a girl or a boy anyway, but a soul who has come in our life for a very big reason. And to be honest, if I be very personal, I didn't even realize what those reasons were until I had, 2 years later, until I had my son. And as soon as my son turned 6 months, the daughter, who was now about 2.5, she was diagnosed with a cancer. And that brought the challenge which none of us were prepared for. And the news came, she was 3 years old now, I think, by the time she got diagnosed, because it took us a few months to know what's going on with her. The day we came to know that, okay, she got a stage 4 cancer, we came home, and I'm breastfeeding my son, just looking at each other, me and my husband, okay, what now? What's going to happen? And obviously, we were very emotional. The tears were flowing down. And she's just standing in the corner in her pink dress, unknown or maybe known, who knows? And she said to us, when you get upset, things get difficult for me. Everything will be okay. She said these words, and the pain that we were going through because of her, I would say, she became our strength within the seconds of those words. We sat down to her level. I still remember we were standing in a kitchen, and we hugged her, and we decided at that very moment that this is the situation we've been put in for a reason. We cannot change the situation. It's beyond our control. But with the strength that you have given us, Guru-given strength, we are going to get through this gracefully. Whatever comes on the other side, we are not going to do ardas. We're not even going to ask for anything. It has happened for a reason. And you have bought it because we have always seen her as a very different soul. So we will go through this, and the strength that came to us and our family because of her, through her and her words. And when we went through this whole process for 2 years, the treatments and whatever surgeries that come with it, it showed us actually what surrendering means. And as a mother, what you go through this, the pain, when she goes through the pain, you cannot bear that pain, and you can't even explain that pain when your child is hurt in any way. But every time her words gave me such a big strength that, okay, that basically was teaching me how to put bharosa in the divine hukam rather than fighting with the hukam. And the whole thing, it's strange to say this, the whole thing became graceful. And if I say it as is some sort of blessing as well, because I would have never seen the pain or understood the pain that parents or mothers go through. And I'm not wishing that on anyone, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that these challenges come in our way, but our kids, ourselves, become the strength if we just sometimes surrender to the whole thing and have that connection that we can feel with them, but not only limited to them, feel that connection through them with the divine, that they have come in our life for a reason. And I think somebody said, say boy or a girl, forget about that. They have come up as a soul because I had the pura janam ke mile sanjogi. Yeah, but ante kona sahai. Yeah, we are sanjogi for a reason, and they would not be a better sanjog because it's planned by the divine. So cannot complain. And all these challenges are there, of course they are there, but they can become a blessing as well if we just change the perspective, the way we look at these challenges. Sorry for being so personal, but
no, it's And how old was your daughter when she said that to you?
She was 3.
Oh my gosh, profound words from the mouth of a 3-year-old. So they were not her words, they were coming through her. So there's we're talking about children, and there's there's a question over there which touched me deeply, and I want to share that with all of you. Sikhi values family. What would you say to someone who has not or could not have children? Here is on Mother's Day, there are many women, for whatever reason, whether it's a choice or they can't, whatever the reason, what do we say to them? Neeluji, do you want to take that on?
I remember one of the other kind of a story which can actually come up with this answer, and that was that one of my patients, you can say, he was quite upset that he was never complete with his mother, and he used to live abroad, and there were many times when he would fight with his mother, say all sorts of things, but then he was not complete when she passed away. So during counseling, he asked me that what do I do? Since the time she's passed away, I'm not able to reconcile to the fact that I was not complete with her. And now I cannot have another mother. So what do I do? I think I will have an Akhand Path done and get all the ragis and, this kind of a ritual and all that. I said, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you start helping a Lodindi Ma who is in need of some money or some shelter or some anything, whatever you feel like. So he went to a Vridashram. So in a way, he adopted a Lodindi Ma. And then the chain started. And today he is so happy about the whole thing that my journey got complete when I started giving more time to the mothers who were in need of love, in need of trust, in need of money, in any way, So the kind of a question what you have put up, it's reason maybe any. Yeah, that one cannot. But जब ਅਸੀਂ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ, ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ, ਤੇ ਸਾਰੀ ਜन्नत ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੀ ਨੇ. So once you adopt this kind of an attitude within yourself, that yes, ਜਿਹੜੀ full ਲੁਕਾਈ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, the whole human race is such that there are so many children dying for our love. And it's not that biologically, if we cannot produce one, we cannot love anyone, nothing of that kind. That's what I feel that the answer lies in there.
So, motherhood, if anything we've listened to, all of you, has been the one thing that comes out loud and clear is love. It's love and giving. And that is not restricted whether you are with a child or without a child. I had a Masiji who was childless, and the amount of love she showered on me, it was incredible. And on everyone, any child, anyone she met along, because that was her nature. So it is, you can, for those who have chosen not to bring another being into this world, or for the others who are not able to conceive, you are presented with a choice. And how are you going to react? You can, you have a choice for accepting it with grace and then showering love on everyone and anyone. Or you can become bitter. And Barney is all about love. The path of Sikhi is the path of love. If anything, it is that love is the one thing that you aspire. The family, the children, everything else comes second. It is the love that you have flows through you to everybody else. So, Mandeep ji or Sharanjeet ji, would you like to add something to that?
I was just thinking to put a question up that how many children did Mata Sahib Kaur ji had? Yeah, none from her own womb, but millions, right? So my understanding is that, I don't know what's the definition of mother, but bearing a child through your body doesn't make you mother. It's the care, it's the love, it's that emotion, the passion, and whatever comes with it, what makes you mother. And motherhood comes very naturally to us. I used to say, because when I was a teenager, and I used to laugh, oh my God, I can never be a mother, right? And I never had this instinct, because it's like kids like, yeah, I don't know, saaf karna and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then the time, the time prepares you. The environment prepares you, and Gurmat de vich, you get married, and then all of a sudden after some time you have this urge, right? So it's very easy to say, okay, look, just for those mothers who can't conceive, to theek hai, hukam ch ravo. It's the will of God. It's tough when it comes on our plate. It's tough. And we completely acknowledge it, completely. But you already said that if we make an effort, we try whatever we can to get the blessing, but ultimately it is what it is. If it comes in our way, great. If not, then do we accept that gracefully, or we become bitter about it? It is embedded in us, and whether we have a child of our own. I remember one soul who is not in this world anymore, and I got connected with her through Sangat. I didn't know her. Well, every time I got up after doing Kirtan Seva, she'll come and she'll give me a big, the most warming hug. And the amount of love she gave me is, again, beyond words, not only love, respect, and whatever else. And it just so happened, I came to know that she doesn't have any children of her own. Yeah. And she was at an age where you think, okay, you've gone that age now, you can't have children. And I called her mom because of the amount of love it was flowing, it was overflowing. And is she less of any mother who has given a birth? In my eyes, no, not at all. She had that passion of something of this overflowing sacrifice, love, and whatever comes with this thing that we call being a mother and motherhood. Yeah, so yeah, I can't say anything how those Bibia feel who would like to have children, but they can't for whatever reason, because I haven't been in their situation. So the pain I can't understand, but I can only try to feel it. But if that's the case, the only thing, as Neelu Panji has also shared, that okay, at some point we have to come in line with acceptance, and this is now time now to serve and show that pyar of coming through my motherhood to Sarbat, to the entire humanity, whichever way it comes.
So we have another very interesting question, Sharanjeet, which I would like you to address. This is from Dr. Kirpal Singh from Daytona Beach, Florida. He said, do you think pastoral counseling will help young mothers?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So
the question is, Dr. Kirpal Singh is asking that basically, I think young mothers go through their own challenges.
Hanji.
And do you think counseling for young mothers would be beneficial in probably a Gurdwara setting?
Okay, sorry, that's why I was missing.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of mental health and gaining mental health supports in any which way possible. So they may be through structured counseling, and they may be through different kinds of professionals. Mental health supports also come from a peer supports perspective as well. So I think would young moms benefit? Bilkul. I think that there's times I shared an experience during pregnancy. I think postpartum is a particularly difficult time for a lot of young mothers. And then I think just the trials and tribulations as they continue on for all mothers, knowing that they have someone to turn to that offers a safe space. So Jinnah Hosak, I think from a community perspective, I think we need to open up the support system that is available to young mothers that does create that really safe, honest space. And when and where possible, if it can be Sikhi inspired, I would definitely say that it's if someone is on the path and can get that Sikhi inspired support, it makes it that much stronger, because there's connections that have to happen on multiple levels for that. And I know Neelu Benji is probably much more versed to actually speak from a professional perspective, but from a personal perspective, when you're struggling as a young mom, it's the functional things that are happening that you want to know, like, how do I get my kid to go to sleep? How do I sleep? You know, like there's just that piece. There's the layers of immense responsibility that you've now feel that you've taken on from a role perspective. But then if that can somehow be grounded in a way that still brings you back to how your faith and your Sikhi can actually support you, I would say is definitely something that would benefit, I would say, young mothers and young fathers. I'm going to go out there and say that I know today's Mother's Day and we have a significant focus on the mothers, but when and where possible, it is a co-parenting relationship, and mothers also need to be supported by their partners, and mothers need to support their partners as well. So Jay Holsake, I think it really does come to the Sikh family unit that needs to be supported.
Great. Yeah, I totally agree. It's co-parenting. It's not one person's responsibility. There's another question which I'd like all of you to give your thoughts on. What do you feel is the most important goal Sikh mothers should strive to accomplish? And what key advice would you like to give mothers listening on the call today based on your experience? This is Sharanjeet Kaur from Chicago. So what is the most important goal Sikh mothers should strive to accomplish? And the key advice you would give to all mothers that are listening? Who wants to go first?
I can if you want me to. I don't think I'm in a position to give advice to anybody, to be honest, that I say, okay, you do this, because you know your family, you know your children. I can only share what I feel. So like yesterday, my kids were saying things to me as in, oh, we want to be this when we grow up, and we want to be this when we grow up. And I was just in the kitchen, casual, random, plodding about. And all I said to them is, as long as you're connected with your guru, you be whatever you want to be in your life, because guru will take care of that. And guru will put the conscious living in whatever you do. Because whatever you do in your life, if guru is the center of your action, your profession, your living, then there will be ethics in it. There will be guru in it. There will be guru in how they react, they respond, and whatever they do in their life. And I'm just thinking, kids naturally come with a lot of virtues when they come. Naturally, they have plenty to offer to us, because I have learned a lot, definitely, from my kids. And I'm sure we all have, unless we put that ego wheel. Sometimes I put that as well. Oh, who are you? I'm a mummy. Yeah. My middle was saying to me this afternoon, I was asking what you wanted dinner, and the conversation went around. I said, daddy's in charge, or you're in charge. And they said, and my middle said, but you say you're in charge. I said, yeah, I would like to think that I'm in charge, in theory at least, but practically whatever happens is whatever you want at dinner, and that's what I make. Yeah. So, and what I was thinking was, they are honest. They say things as they are. Yeah. And I want them to be their authentic self when they grow up. I want them to be free of anything that hurts their soul, which then force them to hurt other souls as well. Because I don't think a kid is born with the knowledge how to gossip. And who introduced this gossip, this ninda chugli to them? I was just thinking about it. If there is no gossip in the house, your kid wouldn't know what is this gossip thing. My mummy doesn't need to talk about other aunties. Yeah. And if mummy doesn't talk about other aunties, then the kids won't talk about other kids in a negative way. Of course, they will talk about the language, the tone that we use in uplifting way about others and other Gursikhs or the whole word, and the kid would use it. So I think I would like my kids to be flourished, blossomed in that shadow of divinity. And they can be their authentic self without the anxiety and stress of these societal norms. And connected with one. They feel the hazuri of Guru Nanak. They feel the presence of divine within them. And if they feel that presence within them, then nobody can stop them to see that in others as well. And if there is a divinity everywhere, we are in heaven. We don't need to seek for heaven.
Well, such Sachkhand is here and now. You can experience it as written by, as actually revealed by Guru. It's when you are connected to the one, you experience it. Neeluji, could we have your thoughts on it? And let's keep the conversation short because I'm cognizant of the time. So what is the key advice you would give to mothers listening on the call today? And what should the mothers strive for? If you could just set that to us, please.
In a nutshell, I think the key advice is contained in the full Mool Mantar, starting with Ek Onkar. The first, if the lesson of oneness is learned, if that Ek Onkar, that there is no other, is learned, the whole Mool Mantar has all the virtues which we all should strive for. And if you're talking about Nirbhav, you're talking about Nirvair, all these things. And Jive Hone Mandeep ji, original self the Kalkaresi, even if you have to talk about Swayapunk, that's also the original self, the creative part, the Karta Purak, the creative part. So all these things is the key advice for all the mothers, including me. That we have to work on this and always keep this as a central theme of our lives. You said to be short, and I think in Mool Mantar everything comes.
Great, thank you. Sharanjeet?
I would echo, I think, what both Mandeep Kaur and Neelu said in terms of the goal. The goal essentially brings it right back to the Pankti that we started off with in terms of wanting to kind of make the connection to the oneness. I think from an advice perspective, from a very practical perspective, for me, the biggest thing has been, so again, my background is in public health and a lot of it has to do with behavior change. And what we really learned in public health is that education alone doesn't lead to behavior change. So if we are raising young Sikhs that those who are connected and serving and have those foundations of seva and bhakti in them, just telling them isn't going to be enough. We have to actually create the supportive environment in our homes and in our worlds in which they will actually flourish. So it's how do we make Sikhi the best choice, the easiest choice for them? How do we actually make it digestible for them? How do we, think ahead in terms of what are the obstacles that as kids that they're going to face, and what is our role as mothers to support them. So yes, I know we've talked a lot about how there's an immense sense of responsibility and sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But if we were to kind of hone in on the kind of the micro troubleshooting that we do on a day-to-day basis and think more on a macro level as to what do we normalize in our families and in our societies? What do we actually bring forward that will really lay that foundation so that Kalnu, when they reflect back on it, they know that their mothers have role modeled the behavior. They know that they created the environments that help them choose and be reflective themselves. I think that's what I would say for this.
Thank you. I think for me, the advice which I would give the mothers, if I am in a position to give any advice, which I'm not, is to actually be yourself. Work on yourself. Connect with whatever you think is the source and live it. And when you live it, you flow from that. I mean, my girls are older, and it was just a couple of months back, I had my older daughter have a conversation. She said, I want to talk to you about something. And it was a tough conversation. And at the end of the conversation, she says, well, Mom, you were pretty good. You were pretty open. And I said to her, I don't think I could have had this conversation 3 years back with you because I wasn't vast. So, to listen to them, but also always be working on yourself. Because at the end of the day, the Guru is very clear that you have to become vast to absorb what is around you in acceptance, not in tolerance. In tolerance, there is still, well, I really don't like it, but because you're my child, I'm accepting it. I'm just doing it. There's a huge difference between acceptance and tolerance. And when you become vast, so whatever comes to you, you absorb it and pass it back to them. That is really for them something to work towards. So it's a great question that was asked. And Mandeepji, you brought out, you talked about Mata Sahib Kaur. She's the mother. Today is actually her day. She is the mother of the Sikh nation. We are little particles of that star. You know, she is the one who led the nation for about 38 years. When things were dire, she held. And where was her strength and bharosa coming from? And I want to share with you all, I mean, she has 9 hukamnames to her written, as we know. And in one of them that is attributed to her, which I would like to share with you, you are my children. The perfect guru will protect your honor. I don't think there's anything more any one of us can say about advice than what Mata Sahib Kaur has given to all of us. You are my children. And the perfect guru will protect your honor. So our path, our journey is to connect with Guru. So we may feel there's countless blessings. I want to thank each one of you for taking the time. I mean, you are women of substance. When I was putting together this panel, it was like, I want women of substance to have this conversation with. And each one of you has created such a rich environment. And I'm enriched by it. And before we leave, if there are any thoughts, your closing comments you would like to share with the panelists or with the Sangat, with our e-Sangat, please, let me know and unmute yourself and speak.
I'd just like to say that in the COVID-19 situation, this too shall pass away. And we all have to be in Chaddi Kala always. And with no discrimination thing happening, everything will be okay. All is well. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I would just like to thank you for putting this together. When the first message came to me that we would like to be on this, I didn't know what is expected, what I'm doing. And also with the 3 kids running around me all the time, I've locked myself actually in a room at the moment. They have knocked on the door 100 times, yeah. But I'm pretending I'm in my own time, in my own zone, because they're safe. I know that they are safe where they are. They're doing Kirtan upstairs at the moment, which is actually a great thing that Sunday kids come together via Zoom and do kids Kirtan. And that's a great initiative, those who have started it. So just wanted to say that let's take this guilt factor out of our motherhood. If you're able to take that guilt factor out of the motherhood, naturally the divine will prevail, because it's not us. We put our best efforts and leave the rest. Leave the rest for the one who created us, who gave us all these things, the blessings in our house as well. And give affirmations to yourself that you are a great mother. Yeah, because we are Atma and our kids are Atma as well. And when we look at them, give them a Guru given Assis as well. Put a hand on their head and give them Assis that you would like them to be. Not necessarily a materialistic Assis, become a doctor, engineer, whatever. They will become what they need to become. Yeah, but give them that Assis that Guru Nanak would have given. Yeah, because Guru has given us this responsibility. We are their first gurus as mothers. It's a massive privilege, a massive honor. So let's use that wisely, and let's take that guilt factor out. And hopefully this will help me to take my guilt factor out as well. But thank you very much for this platform. It was very powerful, very, very profound. Thank you ji. Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.
I again like to echo everything that Benjis have said. It's kind of hardest to go last now because I feel like all the profound thoughts have already been shared. And if Mandeep Kaur Benji, your children were knocking on the doors, my children were crawling on the ground at one point where I was trying to get them not to pop up. I was going to have that BBC doctor moment. I echo the same thing. I think it's being kind to ourselves. It is such an immense responsibility. We keep saying this over and over again, but it's that piece in terms of if we're not kind to ourselves, if we're hard on ourselves, it's also what our children see. And so not only is it not fair for ourselves, but they'll mirror that same judgment on themselves as well. And we just create the next generation of individuals who are overly critical. And the more critical you are, there's less space for Simran and Seva and Bhakti and everything else that's so important. So let's not displace that space with negative energy and instead fill it with positive energy. And all that to be said that we are Sikhs and our children are Sikhs. And I don't mean this just generally in the capital S Sikhi perspective, but we are learners. So if we keep ourselves open to learning and continuing on this path, and I always say to my children, I hope that they're going to be better than I am so that I can follow in their footsteps too. So again, it all comes back down to Bana and Barosa that we can fall back on, but really moving forward in a positive way, whether it's COVID-19 or not COVID-19, we have different pandemics that take us at different times in our lives. And yeah.
On behalf of SikhRI, I thank Inni Kaur, Neelu Singh, Mandeep Kaur, and Sharanjeet Kaur for making time to connect with the Sikh world. I particularly enjoyed this conversation. It was a beautiful way to begin my Mother's Day. I appreciate you guys engaging in this necessary and gentle conversation. Thank you to all, to our e-Sangat today. Thank you for tuning in and for spending this time with us. Please tune in for our next live webinar on May 17th, Getting to Know Vaheguru, a workshop specifically designed for young children ages 6 to 10, where children will walk through a Shabad by Bhagat Kabir Ji. Today's webinar will be ending now. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
You were listening to SikhCast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.